Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about my investment updates for the month of August. I'm going to be covering my crypto, my stocks, dividends, and growth, and also just talking about my general strategy, where I think things are going, and all of the changes that I made for my portfolio. I know things have been a little bearish lately, or kind of stagnant if you're looking at it in a kind of month-to-month view. But I still fully expect to see a lot of activity in the next little while, or things might play out and the bull market might kind of lean into 2022. I'll talk about the few different scenarios that I'm kind of anticipating and how I'm going to go about taking profits and what I'm going to be focused on in the next little while. We're going to dive into all of that and more in just a quick moment after a word from my sponsor. A big thank you and shout out to my sponsor Cake Wallet, which is an open source, non-custodial Bitcoin and Monero wallet that also has a built-in exchange. It's available on iOS and Android. Thanks again to my sponsor, so let's dive right in. As always, we look at my dividends first. I'm now over 1,000 with $1,114 worth of dividends, and $59 of that came from last month. So not a huge amount, but we know that every 3 months or so, I see a bit of a dip, just, around quarterly earnings, etc. You can see the trend here, where it typically is up a little bit for 2 months and then dips. And then, we see that continued trend. So that's nothing new. But, as always, the general trend is that we're going up more and more every time. So, I started off in September of 2019 earning 1 cent per month. And, now we're able to cover, actual bills and various things passively. And that's very, very powerful. It's important to look at these milestones and kind of internalize that and make sure you're keeping up with that and rewarding yourself. But more importantly, not rewarding yourself by going out and spending money, rewarding your hard work by just, appreciating and being grateful, and then being more motivated to continue investing. I think a big mistake that people make with investing is once they hit some great milestone, they'll cash out a bunch and buy something really expensive to celebrate. But then you're just setting yourself way, way back. That's not the best way to go about it. I celebrate typically by investing more. I'm like, this is so great. Let me keep doing this. Let me add on to this. You got to kind of have that mindset switch where you're not looking to reward yourself with like luxuries. You're rewarding yourself with speeding up your retirement. And that is the best possible gift you can give yourself. So moving on to crypto income. Now this is starting to go up significantly, but that's really just because I've started to, now that I'm not really adding to my positions, I'm slowly building up my passive income growing cryptocurrencies again. So I put money back into Tron. I'm keeping all of my Hive locked up. I'm taking all of my earnings, locking that up, or putting my HBD into savings and earning 10%. So a lot of different ways that I'm earning passively, and I'm really just ramping that up. So I expect this to continue growing and getting back to previous levels. So this is looking good. This is exactly what I expect it to be, and it should keep increasing over the next little while. In terms of other passive income, I got like 84 cents here. That was just from some royalties. SoCan gets a tiny amount of money for me every now and then. You can see they pay me like less than $1. These are actually more significant payments that I get from my publisher for my music. But either way, I'm actually going to be making a Bitcoin song. So stay tuned for that. I think you will all be very shocked and surprised when you hear me do this song, because you just will not expect it at all. It's going to be called 1 BTC equals 1 BTC. So very excited about that. I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised when they hear this song. In terms of crypto appreciation, even though we've been seeing like crazy swings, I've seen my portfolio go up and down around $60,000 for the past few months where it's just going up and down. But at the end of the day, every time I've ever, not ever, but lately, when I'm tracking my monthly values that I'm ending up with, it's always looking fairly decent. I am down again, sadly, but I still fully expect for this to keep going up. I mean, according to this, I'm up and I'm good, but I mean, tomorrow when I clock in this next one, it'll be around 200,000. So I'll be down a bit, but we'll talk about that in the next one. And I'll focus more on, where I think things are going and points that I'm going to actually sell out and take profit, starting to switch from that acquiring more and building up my positions to looking for when I can actually sell and make the best of this bull market before we get into an actual serious bearish market. Because again, I don't think we're really there. Obviously, things have been very volatile. China's always talking about banning cryptocurrency. I don't know how you can ban cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. So there's a joke in the crypto world that it's like China has finally ultra super mega banned pinky swear for the last time Bitcoin. But, in a few months, we're going to see another article about how China's banning crypto. So honestly, I don't really pay attention to a lot of that. The big news has been the US voting on a bill that will affect, if you have to claim taxes on being a developer or airdrops or running nodes and all these different things. We also have the SEC case with Coinbase going on because of CeFi lending is kind of under fire right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the States and China that are kind of messing around with the price. But I'm seeing inflation articles, groceries being lacking supplies, etc. in the States. So I think very, very soon we're going to see the consequences of that. And naturally, when things get really bad in the fiat world, we see a lot of people moving over to crypto. Plus, they might end up needing to do more QE. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I am very, very hopeful. And I'll talk about exactly what I expect for the scenarios in the future to play out as. For my stock investment portfolio, continuing to just grow steadily. So that's really, really good to see. I am a little bit down with everything that's going on with Evergrande and the whole real estate crisis that may unfold from this. However, Canadian real estate is fairly stable. I've only lost a tiny, tiny amount of money. I think right now I'm at 36,000, so I'm only down, a very small percentage. So I'm not too worried, and a portion of that was really just Bitcoin going down with the ETFs that I'd invested in. So all in all, my dividend stocks have barely been affected, maybe a couple $100, but very, very minuscule. That's why I invest in very, very safe assets, very safe stocks, ETFs that cover, certain sectors that I agree with and invest in. We'll get into all that in a little bit. But either way, this is growing good and this has been fantastic. So my budget is the one thing that I really have to touch on here because I've been spending very, very exorbitantly, or just not the way that I would like to. I mean, next year I only intend to spend $30,000. This year I'm going to spend around $40,000. My exact estimate is about $39,500. In the last few months, I bought new monitors, new graphics card, spent a ton of money on upgrades and things. I don't think that was a bad decision because the good thing about having a small business is all of this is tax deductible. 100% of office supplies and electronics and computer parts, etc., are all tax deductible. At least my understanding for here is that you defer it over the years based on how it would depreciate. And generally with electronics, it doesn't they don't really hold their value more than 5 years generally. So you can depreciate that. You can get the deductions off the depreciation over 5 years. But I mean, I'm not a tax expert by any means, and this is more so for here in Canada, and this is my understanding of it. But it is very important to understand how tax deductions work, especially if you do earn money on your own. And one other thing that I did completely separate of budget that is probably worth touching on. I haven't done a lot of investing over the past couple of months because I've been sort of paying back my tax that I owe. Essentially, this is what I did. And I don't think anyone should do this. This was very foolish. It worked out very well, but I don't think you should do this. I took, as a small business owner, I get paid my taxes with my invoices. So most people, they just get their payment, their wage, and then the tax is taken off of that. And then eventually you do your tax return and you get some of that back. The opposite is what we have for small businesses, where I collect all of the tax and my pay, and then I keep that. And then at the end of the year, I pay what I owe back to the government, but then I get to deduct everything and do all my stuff and then end up, obviously paying less. But what I did was I took all that tax money and I invested it into Bitcoin. Luckily, at a very, very optimal time, like January, February, March, and then we saw the price skyrocket. So, I'm in a very, very good place from doing that, but you should never do that. It's not smart at all. It's very risky. It goes against my rule of only invest with money that you have, and don't borrow money or do anything like that. I wasn't necessarily borrowing money, and if I needed the money, I could obviously just get it. But yeah, now I'm just paying back the tax that I should have already kept and had set aside. So I don't recommend anyone doing that. It worked out very well for me, but lately I've just been kind of paying that back and getting I also depleted all of my savings, and I basically had no money for a while because I just invested everything. And now I'm just kind of building all that back. And then I'm going to max out my TFSA in the near future once I've got everything kind of settled and back to a reasonable standpoint. It's important to have, 6 months of savings, have a cushion. I just went really risky and I had none of that. Again, do not recommend it, but that is what I did. Now, let's take a look at my the actual portfolio breakdown in depth here. So I'm at 250,000 in total, which is definitely, down from before. I think it was like around 300,000. So yeah, I'm definitely down, but I still have all of the conviction of where we are headed. It would be no surprise to me if Bitcoin hit 150,000 by the end of the year. And I fully anticipate, at least at the very minimum, let's talk use case. Let's talk scenarios before I jump into all this. At the very least, my expectation is in the next year, at the very least, like this is the unideal scenario. Let's say this is scenario 2, the scenario that I'm not really hopeful for, but this could happen. In the next year, Bitcoin will do its thing, and so will Ethereum, and everything will be golden. Ethereum will go through its massive upgrade in Q1 of next year. So I think a lot of things might all happen, and it might not be this year. But that's okay, because I still expect it to be very, very soon. Like, if it takes longer than a year, it's taking 4 years, essentially. The worst case scenario, in my opinion, is, we just go back into a bearish market and we wait 4 years for the next cycle, and then we're golden. But I don't see a super worst case where, everything just plummets and everything is just terrible and, we're all screwed. I just don't, that's not possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't be investing like I am. What I do actually expect to happen, and this is my first scenario, so to speak, this is what I'm anticipating and looking for, is that I expect to see at least a 2 to 3x on Bitcoin and subsequently probably significantly more for the other coins that I hold. And I expect that by the end of the year. Mind you, none of this is financial advice. I can't tell the future, but I've been around long enough to, like, through a previous cycle to now, to have a much better picture of how things are working, and I fully subscribe to how the halvings affect Bitcoin, to the stock to flow model as it relates to the halvings. I don't believe in technical analysis, so I don't expect to know the future, but I understand that a lot of this is hard coded into Bitcoin, and it's not just saying, look at the past and just, go based on that. It's more than that, because Bitcoin runs through these cycles and it's all sort of set in motion already. I think we're just kind of watching this play out. And regardless of news stories that come out, or China bans this, or the US is going to do different regulations or whatever, I just don't see that being a huge impact on the long term. I mean, Bitcoin has been claimed to have died or crashed or whatever over 500 times, I believe, now in mainstream media. So, you get a little desensitized to that after a while. And if you can go through losing, or, not losing, but not getting, like, seeing your unrealized gains go way down $50,000, $60,000, which I would probably surmise is more than a lot of people have in total of either in their entire portfolio. Yeah, obviously that's a big deal, but you have to understand going into crypto that volatility is like where you have to live in the volatility. You have to breathe volatility. That's what this is. It's no one said it was going to be easy or get rich quick or not risky, but if you believe in the future, and that it includes cryptocurrency as a massive, part of our economy, then you should have the high enough conviction to keep going with your investments in crypto if you actually believe that they're going to play out the way they do. This is why I only invest in things that have truly good use cases and products and actual services and applications. This is why I rail against things like Doge, because it can't compete as a cash alternative in the digital world, because the fees are just so ridiculous, and there's such better options that are also accepted at much more venues like Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, that you could invest in Doge and make a bunch of money, and people have. But I would say more than not, people investing in altcoins and all this stuff, they're not becoming millionaires. And then that's pretty clear to see, because otherwise everyone, the amount of millionaires in the world would be skyrocketing, etc. And I think a lot of that, even if that were the case, would just be due to inflation. But it's not skyrocketing or changing massively. It's still generally around a very, very small percentage of people, like 1.1, or I can't remember exactly what it was. It was very, very, very small. Regardless, though, I think it's very, very important to internalize a lot of this and to have a plan for yourself. Where are you going to take profits? Where do you see things going? You don't want to get into the situation that essentially you've got all this crypto going crazy and you don't have an exact spot where you want to exit. And then you keep saying, well, no, it's going up every day. Just stay in a little longer. And then one day randomly it tanks and it goes down like 70%. And then you're left holding the bag, waiting another 4 years for the next cycle. What you really want to do, the most ideal possible situation, is you somehow manage to sell the top or very close to the top and then buy the bottom. So then you could like triple, quadruple, 5x your Bitcoin. That would be substantial. And then you wait the other 5 years. That's the big difference. Investing in crypto, in any kind of very risky asset, it's not just, put in $5,000, that $5,000 becomes 50 grand, then you take all that out and you buy a car. That's such a waste of the potential momentum that you've got with this wealth building. Instead, that 50,000, then you wait and then it crashes and then you buy back in at 50,000 or 40,000, you keep a little bit on the side, and then that, or maybe you just take out your original 5,000 and then it's just, play money at that point. And then you go back in with 45,000 and now you've got, 8 times the amount that you had originally if it was the same price as when you bought it originally. So now you've got, say it was Bitcoin. Now you've got 8 Bitcoin, and then you ride the next cycle and Bitcoin goes up, 10x in the next 4 years. And then that 8 Bitcoin is now worth 10 times as much. So that 45K is now 450 or whatever it happens to be. I mean, I'm not using actual values or any real prices here. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. The real wealth building game is delaying gratification, delaying rewarding yourself as long as you possibly can, and continuing to reinvest, utilize compounding interest, etc. Now, with all that being said, let's actually jump in and take a look at my total wealth breakdown and all the individual things that I did over the past little while, which hasn't been a lot, so this won't take super long. As I already said, I'm at $250,000 in total for my portfolio. I'm slowly growing my passive income, just building this up. Again, we'll take a look at that exactly in a moment. And then for my growth portfolio, I earned a little bit of, Bitcoin, a little bit of LBC, a little bit of Bitcoin Cash, but not a ton of changes here. This is the actual passive crypto stuff that I'm doing. Again, like I said, I'm getting back into Tron a lot, just building up my Hive-backed dollars, saving my Hive, saving my Matter, just keeping everything in the vehicles to continue earning crypto. So previously, when I was going 100% growth on the bull market for Bitcoin and Ethereum, anything I earned on any platform would basically be withdrawn, converted, and just stored offline. Now, I'm keeping everything in and letting it build up passive income and getting back into my passive crypto, as I mentioned earlier. So taking a look at the actual individual changes on my dividend portfolio, as you can see, like I said, not a lot. I haven't done a lot. The only thing I really did is I bought a little bit more of this investment fund for Tangerine, like literally just $100. So basically nothing. Very, very little change in the portfolio here. All that is every month I take out a little bit of money and I put it into a separate bank account as like a backup. And then it also has like a little investment fund in there. So then I put another $100 in there as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to have as many possible venues of like backups or mediums of ways to pay, right? Have a payment processor. Even though like I don't like PayPal, it's good to have this as a backup if I ever needed it for something, right? So PayPal, Venmo, tons of different crypto, multiple bank accounts, storing or rather investing in multiple stock exchanges. Don't spread yourself out so thin that it's you're losing money on fees to move things around or whatever, but have enough diversification that if you were ever to have an issue, if something got closed down, if you were being censored financially somehow, and all this stuff happens like much more frequent than you would imagine, because it's never going to be headline news that banks are censoring people who have crypto, are working in crypto businesses, etc. That's never going to make headlines. So you're never going to hear about that. It just wouldn't make sense. So naturally, this stuff does happen. I mean, you can obviously search it up and find countless examples. But as someone who went to school for cybersecurity, I know the most important thing is not having a single point of failure. And by diversifying yourself and having all these different ways to keep yourself good to go, you can avoid a lot of potential issues in the future. Plus, if I do get censored or lose access or whatever, it's not like all of my finances are gone. I've got backup accounts. I've got my wealth in other places. So obviously you could still probably get that. You go with a lawyer, do a bunch of stuff, but you don't want to be at the mercy of whatever institutions you are patronizing. They should be there for you to help you, but the reality is that they're really the gatekeepers and you're at their mercy rather than you being the one in charge because you're picking them as the company that you're patronizing. It's really not that way. It's very different. So I think that's important. Again, not really any big changes here. Not really any big changes here either. This is still obviously way down since when I bought these Bitcoin ETFs, but I'm very, very confident that Bitcoin is headed up, you guys. So I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but I'm sure everyone will come back just completely astonished when Bitcoin is going crazy in a few months, or maybe in 6 months, or whatever it happens to be. I'm still going to have my Bitcoin ready to go to capitalize on that because I have such high conviction. And look, if it doesn't happen, people might say, "Oh, like you made the mistake," but then I wait 4 years, and then Bitcoin is skyrocketing. So it's like, yeah, you can be wrong about the individual movements, but if you actually truly believe in something, you're holding it for as long as you need to hold it, because that's how it should work, right? Same thing. I have gold. I've got my gold. I've got silver. If they were skyrocketing in value, I'd probably take some profits. But realistically, they're my backup defensive assets. So at the end of the day, I'm probably just going to hold on to them and just ride it out and keep going and see where it goes. But if crypto goes from, if my portfolio goes from 250,000 to over $1 million, I'd be very apt to sell the majority of that and set myself up for the rest of my life, basically, because I only need $1 million, if even that, probably not even that, but I'm going to just go with $1 million is probably my exit. And so that's pretty much it. I've also got my my individual stuff here for staking in case you guys are interested. Actually, this is probably somewhat interesting. This is what makes up the $7 or whatever that I earned passively. So the majority of this was from delegating my Hive power to D-lease. Essentially, people are paying you to rent your Hive power, and with the APR you're getting plus what they're giving you, you're earning close to 12 to 14%, I would say. And then you get 10% with HBD, which I've started to do more of. The difference, though, it's only a few percent different, but HBD only takes 3 days to get out, while Hive, you only get 1/13 every week for 13 weeks. So effectively, it will take you at least 3 months to get your Hive out, which we know that a lot can happen in 3 months. If you've got a lot, that's kind of concerning. But if it's all in HBD, then you only have to wait 3 days. I don't know how long it's going to stay at 10% because that is a newer thing, I would say. But earning 10% on your Hive back dollars is just phenomenal, and that's going to be my main focus for the next little while. I'm probably going to cap my Hive at 1,000 and then just put the rest into HBD. And I think that'll be a good way to go about it. But let me know what you guys are doing. MTR is just, it's just slowly doing its thing. If you just leave it, you'll slowly passively earn it. And that's just doing its thing. And then Tron is really, really solid. I'm just kind of building that up, just keeping that going. As you can see, now that I've been staking it for a little bit, I'm actually starting to earn a decent amount. So that's really, really good to see. And I expect that to keep going up because I'm going to be paying more attention to it, making sure that I get in every week, claim, freeze, and then vote again. So hopefully I'll see a bit more compounding interest from Tron by doing that. The great thing about all of these is that, actually more so the Hive. It really depends what you do, right? So you can only compound the interest if it's actively being put to use. MTR will do this automatically because you'll just earn it and then it'll all go towards earning you more. So that's really nice that that's kind of just automatic. Tron, you do have to go in there and claim and then freeze/stake and then vote for super representatives to actually earn. So they're just making sure that you have to do something to actually earn and you're not just easily earning a crazy amount of money. And I think there's like some legal stipulation that you have to do something to actually do it yourself, rather than it should just happen automatically. You do have to claim the HBD once a month. So technically that's not really compounding, often. I mean, it's compounding monthly. This is compounding daily. Tron is compounding basically as much as you're willing to do. I'm basically doing it weekly. And then Hive is just, you get payments every day from the people you're delegating to. And if you're willing to then take those new payments and power up, then you'll be compounding a little bit, but only about 3.7% or whatever the APR is on Hive currently. So you do have to keep that in mind. You're not actually earning more until you have enough to delegate to D-Lease. That's why I think it probably makes the most sense to just put everything into HBD, but to each their own. It depends how you're trying to go about it. But I would say the easiest thing to do is HBD and MTR, and then just coming back at like once a month for HBD, and MTR does it on its own. However, MTR has been it's been performing very poorly price wise. I mean, I sold at the top luckily at like $1.40. Now it's down to 36 cents, and I don't know if it's going to go back up. We'll see. But I don't have very high hopes for that. So, do keep that in mind. That's pretty much everything for today. Let me know, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you earning? What are you investing in? Where do you think things are going? I'm very curious to hear from people. What are your sort of scenarios that you expect over the next, 3 to 12 months? Do you think that we've hit our peak for Bitcoin, for Ethereum in 2021? Do you see some crazy stuff happening in the next little while? Do you think it'll kind of bleed into next year? Or do you think we're basically bearish now? Gotta wait for the next cycle. Let me know what you guys are doing and what you think. I'd love to hear from you because, I've basically said everything that I've got going on. And now I'd love to toss it over to you guys and hear what you have to say. Let me know in the comments below, and also make sure to comment #1ham in the comments below, and that way I know that you watched the whole video. A lot of people will they'll post like, is it number one hand? Is it number one like whatever. It's #1 ham, HAM, like my last name, but the idea is like a #1 fan, but you're the #1 ham. It's not a great joke, but it lets me know that you watched the whole video. So please do that if you did get to this point. And I really appreciate that you do watch the whole video. It means everything to me. I'm going to really focus on getting back in the groove of things, you guys. I know I've been slacking with video content lately, but I'm really setting a fire under myself to get things going again and get my content up and out. And I've got a bunch of cool stuff planned for you guys, so do stay tuned and check back in over the rest of the month. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.